I must congratulate you, Mrs. Bishop, on your appointment as Shadow Special Minister of State.
Thank you very much.
And you have a particular role then in relation to electoral matters.
Yes, I do.
You have a view, don't you, that there is fraud, or at least the potential for fraud, in the conduct of our federal elections?
Yes, I do. I think to make a blatant statement that there is no fraud, never has been any fraud, is to be pretty naive. And when I hear the answer given, oh, we haven't got the evidence of fraud, well, you don't get evidence unless you look for it or people provide it. So I think that's part of the mix.
I was very interested in your reference, and I've heard you before on this, to some sort of electoral roll which is electronically connected.
Yes, I accept that to have, and I think you could use a netbook as distinct from the need for a laptop, but to have the various polling places connected electronically. So when you got ruled off in your particular polling place, then it would come off the electronic roll for that particular vote. I recognise that could be expensive, but I think you could start by targeting marginal seats, which is obviously where, if there's going to be fraud, that's where it'll be.
Some of us think that we should move away from preferential voting, perhaps in the House, and I think you say that there may be some halfway point which might overcome some of the degree of informal voting we're finding in, I think, in New South Wales and Queensland.
Well, the thing is that at the state level, in New South Wales and Queensland, we have optional preferential voting. Federally, of course, it's compulsory preferential. And there is certainly, from the figures from the last election show, that the informal vote was higher, both in New South Wales and Queensland, than the rest of Australia. And I think part of that explanation is that scrutineers told me that in my own electorate, for instance, that they would see a ballot paper and just have Bishop and a 1 before it and no preferences filled out. Now, were I to be a candidate in a state election, that's a valid vote. But in a federal election, it's not. It's an informal vote. And lots of people in this last election simply said, oh no, we don't want the how to votes, we've made up our mind. But there's that confusion between the different rules. And I think there's a good case to be made out for looking at a question of perhaps federally having optional preferential voting. It's a discussion I think we need to have.
One of the problems in relation to the Senate that some people complain about is that if they vote above the line, it's very difficult now to know where your preferences are going. Is there some way that you could cure that, do you think?
Well, dare I say, most people vote above the line because they don't have to fill out all the preferences, and I think it's up to almost 98%. They can look at, because they're registered. It's a public registration, so people can find out if they want to do so. I suspect that perhaps not so many people are interested in seeing where the final distribution of preferences go. But certainly with the proliferation of smaller parties and the way in which they exchange preferences, it is quite a complex system.
May I now take you back to 1999? You were a very strong supporter. There weren't many of the existing constitutional system, and you were not at all backward in coming forward and saying that. Have you seen any reason to change your position, that is your position of support for the Constitution and the flag?
None at all. I've always said with regard to the question of a republic, please tell me first what sort of republic you want, and secondly, how it would be better for the people of Australia. And I've never ever had any Republican give me a satisfactory answer to either of those. I support the constitutional monarchy that we have and our constitution because I think it serves us well. And on the question of the flag, I think it's the most beautiful flag in the world. And I think it will be our most beautiful flag for as long as anyone can tell.
Ms Gillard, the present Prime Minister, seems to be saying that this question should now be delayed until the end of this reign. What do you think of that proposition that we should somehow revisit this at the end of the reign?
Well, I don't really have much confidence in anything she has to say. I just find anyone who can go to an election and say there will be no carbon tax before the election and after the election says, oh, well, yes, there will be, how can I believe anything she says?
Mrs. Bishop, thank you very much, and we wish you well in your new shadow portfolio.
Thank you very much.